This is Joe here. We're going to rebuild a plane that was destroyed, partially destroyed. We're going to rebuild it. First thing we're going to do is remove all the old components that we're not going to be using of the fuselage. The nose was pretty bad crushed, so we're just going to rebuild the entire fuselage. And we're also going to take care of any cracks in the wing. Here I'm just using Gorilla Glue, the white version. It dries faster and dries white, and it's a little bit less messy than the traditional Gorilla Glue, and for foam it works perfect. Here we have some Elevon damage that we're going to repair by applying a little bit of glue, and I'm using masking tape to hold it together, and it also keeps the foam glue from expanding out too much because it is an expanding polyurethane glue. So next thing we're going to do, we're going to use a little X-Acto saw, and we're going to trim off the fuselage, square it off. Here I'm using carbon fiber rod. This is about 1 millimeter to 1.2 millimeter, I believe. It's really thin, you don't need much, and here I'm just using it to reinforce the motor mount to the front of the wing. Here I'm just using Gorilla Glue again and using tape to hold it down. Once the glue dries, we'll remove the tape. So once again, just apply a little bit of Gorilla Glue and stick it into the fuselage, part of the motor mount, and then back onto the wing, using tape once more to glue it down to hold it into place. Now on the bottom side, we're going to be using wood. This is basswood. This is about, I think about 1/4 inch by about by 1/8 inch, I believe, and basswood tends to hold up a little bit better since this is on the bottom side and it's not going to have landing gear. It's good to use a material that's going to be able to endure a little bit of punishment, and it's a little bit stiffer, of course, than carbon fiber rod. So once more, using masking tape to hold it into place and to contain the glue. Once it dries, you can remove it depending on various factors. Usually it takes about maybe 15-20 minutes before you can start peeling the masking tape off. Like I said, it's a little bit faster drying than the traditional Gorilla Glue. Here I'm cutting a hole in the wing to run the cables for the ESC. I'm tucking the ESC in right in front of the motor. We're running the power cable through to the other side, and here we're also running all the servo wires through the other side, because here is where we're mounting the receiver. Here I'm hot gluing a piece of Velcro tape, which is going to hold down the receiver. Here is another piece of basswood, and right now I'm using kind of a combination of hot glue as well as Gorilla Glue. The Gorilla Glue is really going to be most of the strength. The hot glue kind of adds extra strength and also keeps you from having to hold it in place while it dries. Here I'm using some basswood strips on the fuselage, and you'll see why later why I'm doing this, but it's also to reinforce the wing. Here I'm just wiping off the Gorilla Glue because it is a little messy, and it's best to wipe off the excess as it expands out. You just wipe it off with a cloth towel. Don't get it in your hands because it's really nasty. Here I'm using a piece of packaging foam. It's a real rubbery type of foam. Not sure exactly what kind of foam it is. It came in a computer monitor. So here I'm just carving it out with a saw, and I'm using the battery as a template. Here I am getting an idea of what the center of gravity is going to be. Here looks like it's about where I want it right off the bat. So if it had not been right, I could have moved the battery forward or backward in order to achieve the proper center of gravity. Here I'm just trimming off the foam with the saw once more, making it a little more aerodynamic, a little more stylish. Here I'm applying hot glue to start using 1/8 inch foam. This is the same type of foam that you get on that board that you buy at the dollar store for poster, basically the poster board, foam core poster board. Just peel the paper off. X-Acto knife or saw works very good to trim it. It's pretty easy to cut, and I'm just laying it out to fit into the fuselage, and if you ever have any overhang or excess, you can trim it off with a knife or saw. And here I'm gluing it into place. As you can see, it's starting to take a little more shape to it now. If I wanted to get a little fancier, I could. There's all kinds of products, little plastic skids you can get from Hobby King to help reduce any dragging whenever you do land it, since it is a belly lander. Here I'm just laying the foam out and then using the actual plane as a template to trim it, and just making some cuts so I can later cut it, and of course gluing with hot glue again. I usually tend to, if it's foam on foam, I tend to use hot glue, and if it's anything to do with wood or carbon fiber, I tend to use the Gorilla Glue. Technically, you could use hot glue on everything, and you could technically use Gorilla Glue on everything, but I find that sometimes just the balance between the two yields the best results as far as time and efficiency. Here I'm using carbon fiber strips, and I'm hot gluing these since the carbon fiber strips are a lot of surface area. Hot glue works just fine for these. If you wanted to get a little more stronger, you could use the Gorilla Glue, but this will be just fine. This is really just a hatch. I'm using some quality duct tape to act as a hinge. Here I'm cutting a hole so that way I can stick my finger in and push the battery out, because once you stick the battery in, you gotta have a way of removing it without using the power cable as a pull cord. You don't want to be doing that. You're gonna break your solder joints. I've also applied tape to keep the foam from tearing from repeated use. Here I am applying a magnet. I'm basically installing a magnet on one side, applying the magnet again on the other side as a template. Here I'm lowering it down until I can see exactly where it's going to hit here, and then of course carving a hole out to apply hot glue and then apply the magnet. On the other side, if you looked, I had applied a piece of paper to keep the magnets from sticking too strongly together. Here the vertical stabilizers were a little weak, so I'm using carbon fiber strip across the tops and bottoms to help reinforce it. That carbon fiber strip is a lifesaver. Hey, it's Joe here. We're gonna launch this sucker now.
Yeah, I think I might need a...
We'll slow it down.
There we go.